Good day, farmers. I'm Khomotso Mashiloane, a livestock technical advisor at the Red Meat Institute for Transformation and Enterprise Development under the Red Meat Industry Services. And today we are joined by Ashley, who's going to give us insights on what is a production leak and why is it important. Because on the other side, we do understand that we have phosphate that we need to supplement in around winter, summer, and we have a protein leak, which we do supplement in around winter. But what is production leak and which season should we feed? So this is our national technical manager who's going to go through us with this presentation on this webinar. You're welcome, Ashley.
Thanks, Khomotso, and thanks for inviting me today to do this presentation for you. We always enjoy interacting with our farmers and doing training with our farmers.
Okay, now you're welcome to our studio. And what is production leak and how does it go? Why is it important for our livestock farmers to supplement this kind of leak?
So production leaks are very important when our cattle have calves or just before they calve down. The nutritional requirement is a lot higher than when they do not have a calf with them. And we need to address this nutritional requirement with a production leak. So production leak is a complete pot, and you'll see why I say it's a complete pot, but it does supplement adequate energy, minerals, and protein that is required by those animals in the high producing phases.
Okay, so I guess we're going to learn in detail when you say high producing phase, what do you mean about that concept? And I'm also looking forward to learn from that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Khomotso. I appreciate it. And
All
thanks
right, the
again for the
stage is
opportunity.
yours.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, so good day. I'm Ashley Grimsell. I'm one of the technical managers at Voermol Feeds. I work in the field with a lot of our farmers, and it's always great for us to be involved in training. So basically, if we just start off with the basics, what is the cheapest feed that is available? And the answer is easy. It's the one you don't have to buy. So the aim of supplements is to complement your grazing. We do not want to replace your grazing with licks. So the intake of our licks are lower. And the reason for that is we just address the nutritional deficiencies with a lick. And we still want our cows to optimally use our grazing that is available. All right, so Voermol has a 3-phase lick program. And in this lick program, our aim is to address the nutritional deficiencies present in the felt, but also to meet the nutritional requirements of the animal in their various stages of production. And it's great that we're chatting about the production licks or our production phases of our animals, because that is where they have the highest requirement that they will have for the whole year. So if we just quickly look at our nutritional deficiencies in the felt, in this diagram, it can change between different areas. So it's dependent on when your rainfall occurs. But just for an example purpose, the rain starts falling here on this diagram in September. So a rule of thumb that we use is for the month after our first good rains have fallen, we usually start with our phosphorus or trace mineral supplements or our summer licks. And we continue with them through until our rainy season has finished. After that, we continue over to our protein licks. Protein licks are fed in the winter on dry grazing. There's a lot of dry material available in the felt, but the quality of it is very poor in winter. Then as we move on to late winter or late in our dry season, just before our rainy season starts, in the diagram, it would be here from July till September, our felt is quality is at its lowest, and we would supply protein, energy, and minerals on this felt, and those components usually form part of our production licks. And it's important that we also consider our cows producing phases when we feed production licks, but we'll dig into that now a bit later. So if we just quickly look at the production year of a beef cow, this cow that I have here as an example would calve down here at the end of July, beginning of August. And the month before she calves down, so July, it would start in July. Then August and September, those are 3 months. Those are her 3 most important months of her year. This is when we would usually give that cow a production lick because her nutritional requirement is so high, and the veldt is just not good enough to supply her enough nutrients to address her nutritional requirement during that phase. We would like a cow to reconceive within 90 days or 3 months after she has calved down. That means that she will produce a calf for you every year. Then as we move on through her production phase, as she comes closer to weaning her calf, her nutritional requirements decrease, and we would give maintenance licks, either depending on the type of grazing. So on green grazing, we would give a mineral or phosphorus supplementation. And then on our dry grazing or winter grass, we would give a protein lick. All right, so keep in mind when your rainy season is and your production year of your beef cow, and that will also help you in planning your program. We also always suggest our farmers calve their cows when there's the most food available. So that's in the rainy season, and there's high quality food available for that cow. So then you don't need to supplement her a lot here in October, November, December. So just indicated by the blocks here is when you should give which supplement. So like I've said, on our green grazing, we would give a mineral supplement that contains phosphorus. Then a maintenance supplement in purple, they are high in protein or urea. Those are our winter licks. And then a production supplement, very important, a month before the cow calves and for another 2 months after she has calved down. Very important to provide our beef cows with production supplements. Right. As we continue, so our aim is to meet the nutritional deficiencies, to have optimal veldt usage and animal production. So I've just given an example here of a maintenance lick, but the same goes for our production licks. We've recommended that you should only feed a maximum of 500 grams of this lick per day, animal per day. Please do stick to these recommendations as they will address the animal's nutritional deficiency. And it's also designed in that way for safety purposes. So a lick just provides enough of nutrients to supplement the veldt. So it is not a complete feed. Your animals should not be standing there eating and eating and eating lick. They should consume small quantities of a lick and go out and graze. They must still obtain the most of their dry matter intake from the grazing. So your animals must have enough access to veldt at all times, or grass or hay. Our grass or hay must never run out. Then the protein in this product will help the microbes grow. And your animal must not become full on a lick. So it's only there to supplement your animals. It is not a complete feed. We also do not want to do substitution. And substitution happens when the intake of a supplement is so high, it starts replacing your grazing. That is not what supplements are designed for. So we must manage it accordingly. So how do you measure what you should be giving of what product? So if we give you a recommendation of, say now, for example, the previous example was 500 grams. We all have empty coffee cans at home, or we've got an empty 2-liter bottle. And if you have a coffee can that weighs 2.5 kilograms, and I told you you need to give 500 grams of a lick per cow per day, 2.5 kilograms divided by 0.5. So 1 can is enough for 5 cows in 1 day. The same is for the 2-liter bottle. Once again, the recommendation is 500 grams per cow per day. So that's 0.5 kgs per cow per day. So 2 divided by 0.5. So one of these bottles is enough for 4 cows in a day. So if you have, so you can manage your lick intake by using things you have at home. All right, so the critical 100 days for a beef cow is our production phase of our cows. Like I said, it's the last 30 days of pregnancy, so the last 30 days before the cow is going to calve, and the first 70 days of lactation. So what happens here? The calf grows the most and is born. That cow needs to become pregnant again within 3 months of calving. So within 90 days, she needs to become pregnant again. And she must produce a calf for you each year. Otherwise, we lose too much money with our cows. The nutritional requirement for these 100 days, this critical 100 days, is very close to what it would be for the rest of the production year. So what I mean by that is her requirements during production are extremely, extremely high compared to when she's in a maintenance phase. So we need to feed balanced licks. And here at the bottom, I said fodder flow planning is very important. What I mean by that is we need to plan that our cows calve down when we have the most food available, and that is usually in the green season or after our rainy seasons have started. And that is beneficial because then we do not need to supplement them high levels of a production supplement. All right, so a cow must have an off season for about 3 months. Otherwise, she should always have a calf or be pregnant. So we like to compare that to a soccer team. They have an off season of 3 months a year when they don't play and they rest. The same is for our cows. They're only allowed a 3-month season to rest. Otherwise, if those soccer players don't exercise or train for most of the year, when match day comes, they won't be able to perform. And the same is for our cows. So our cows are only allowed a 3-month off season. Otherwise, she should have a calf or be pregnant, and then she's making you money. All right, so our third phase of our 3-phase lick program is our production licks. And these are for pregnant, lactating, and growing animals. So we'll delve a bit deeper into that now. So what is the purpose of a beef cow farmer? And that's you guys out there. A cow must produce a calf for a farmer each year. Otherwise, like I've said previously, she just costs you a lot of money, and you need to get an income from that cow. So as soon as you have a cow, she must be producing a calf for you each year. So production supplements, you must always think of it like a pot. This pot of food here on the right-hand side looks delicious. But this pot contains everything that you will need, and the same is for our cow. So whenever we think of a production supplement, it must contain everything that is needed throughout the year. So in other words, it must have enough protein, it must have enough energy, and there must be enough minerals in that supplement so that we can address her higher nutritional requirement. So production supplements very important for our cows in their producing phases. So when they do have a calf with them. So cows are heavily pregnant the last month of pregnancy or gestation. And those that have calved as well, they have a higher nutritional requirement because they require additional nutrients to take care of that calf, but also because that calf is growing so much. So our grazing is insufficient to meet the nutritional requirements of these cows, and that is why we supply them with production licks. These cows are also in a negative energy balance. That is why our production licks have an energy component, which our maintenance or licks in the winter or on the dry grazing doesn't have. So you'll see a protein lick does not have an energy component, whereas our production licks also have an energy component in them. All right, so how do we know we need to change from a protein lick in winter or on dry grazing to a production lick? Our cows tell us this, and the lick intake of a protein lick increases. Then we know we must change over to a production lick. She's coming close to calving. or the grazing is just not sufficient in meeting her nutritional requirements, her high nutritional requirements. All right, so if we look at this diagram that I have up here, this is just the prioritization of nutritional requirements. And if we just spend some time on this so that I can explain, if you look, the bottom step we have here is maintenance. Now, any food that an animal or a cow consumes, she will first use it to make sure she can maintain herself. So it makes sure she can breathe, she can walk, and all those things, and for bodily processes. As soon as we ask her to produce milk, where she's in the lactation phase, that's the fourth step up there, she needs more nutrients to go up here. And that is why we need to provide that cow with a production lick. Her requirements are much higher than what she needs for maintenance. She's producing milk for that calf. She's losing weight, and the grazing is, like also said, at its poorest. Then we also say that cow must become pregnant again 3 months after she has calved. So we are also asking her to reproduce, and reproduction requires a higher nutritional requirement than just lactation. So this is where we can actually visualize why our nutritional requirements of our cows with a calf are so much more than those with cows that do not have a calf. And our bulls, the same go for them. They won't ever lactate over here. They might reproduce, but they don't need lactation. So they are usually kept on maintenance licks, or just until before the breeding season, say 2 to 3 months before the breeding season, we would give them better supplements to prepare them for the breeding season. So I hope this makes sense. It's just to put it in perspective. Right, so the options for production licks on dry grazing, one of our very good products, we get a lot of good results with it, is production lick. You'll see it here in the right-hand corner. It's in a grey bag with purple writing on. It's Voermol production lick. It works really well. You can use it for cattle, and you can use it for small stock, sheep and goats. Another good production lick you can use on dry grazing is Voermol Econo lick. It also has sufficient quantities of phosphorus, which is important in milk production in these animals. Production lick also has sufficient phosphorus quantities that's necessary for milk production. All right, home mix options that are available. We have Dundee Lick Concentrate and Premix 450. And those two products you will need to mix with grain in order to make a production lick. So if you do not have mixing facilities, rather opt for Econo lick or production lick. So I've just mentioned the home mix options with Dundee Lick Concentrate and Premix 450. And you'll see here mix number 4 is production lick with Dundee. Now this is for our young cows, but for our older cows, production lick number 5 will be work just as well. It will also be a bit cheaper than production lick 4. Then Premix 450, the same. There's a production lick for our cows on dry grazing, and then the heifer lick would be for our young cows. If they've calved down, you would give them a heifer lick. And then we also give your intake of your different products are indicated here at the bottom. So all this information is available on our Voermol app, but it is also available on our website. You are more than welcome to download the app and browse around under the product section for these mixes or more information on our products. All right, so production licks for green grazing. A lot of you would know Voermol Supermol. It works really well on green grazing, so we cannot use it in the winter. The protein isn't enough, but it works really well on green grazing for our cows. The next one would also be Voermol Econo lick. Voermol Super 18 is also another product you can consider. And then Voermol Energy Block is the last one you can consider on green grazing. So all these products are very suitable for green grazing. Once again, our intakes of these products are indicated on our app, and so please do go to the Play Store and download that. All right, so basically what nature lacks, Voermol will provide, and we have had many success stories of our farmers using our products, and it's always great to see smiles on the faces of our farmers. If our farmers produce, we also are happy for them. Then if I can just finish off, the annual intake of a 450 kilogram cow is about 4.1 tons of felt she will eat in a year. So that's about 4,100 kilograms of felt that a cow will eat in a year. And for her to eat that felt, she actually just needs about 180 to 230 kilograms of supplements per year. So if you consider how much food she eats, your supplementation level is not that high. All right, so once again, if your lick intake increases from what is prescribed, we know the animal's requirement has changed. So if your intake of a winter lick goes from 500 grams and she's suddenly eating 700 grams, then you know she's most probably close to calving, and we need to change the lick to address the requirements. So Bongani Mbongo works with me, and he's a very, very knowledgeable guy. You are more than welcome to also contact him if you have any queries or questions. He is more than willing to help you out with all your queries. Thank you so much.
But nature lacks, Voermol provide. I like that.
Oh, great. I like it too.
Thank you so much, Edley, for a wonderful presentation. I hope our farmers are going to learn a lot on their production side. Because I think body condition is one of the important things that affects a lot of things, even the immunity. If the body condition is poor, then it means it can also get to diseases. And we in the red meat side, we also see that an animal won't have, let's say it's a cow, you don't have enough milk to provide to its offspring, and you are going to have financial implications when you're going to sell those winners at the end of the day. So supplementing your animals is a better way that we can work along with nature, and in a sustainable manner. So I hope I have learned a lot, and I hope our farmers are going to learn a lot also.
Oh, great. Thanks so much, Khomotso. I really do appreciate the opportunity.
All right. And I'm also looking forward to engage with you further. I hope also our farmers are going to do the same. If they have any nutritional aspects, they can just contact you and ask, oh, what is supplementary feeding, or when should I supplement, what is crib feeding, and so forth. Any other aspect that we didn't cover today. But I hope that you are the expert in this game, and hopefully you're looking forward to assist our farmers.
No, perfect. We're always available to help.
All right. Now, thank you so much. Is there any last words that you want to share with our farmers?
So I've just added here our website. If you would like any information on our products, you're more than welcome to go and visit www.voermol.co.za. We also have a Voermol Feeds Facebook page, so we share some insightful information on that page. So you're more than welcome to go and look at that as well. We've also got some YouTube videos on some of our products. Go and have a look at our YouTube channel. And please do go and download the Voermol app from the Play Store. All our product information is also displayed on our Voermol app.
Okay, thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing such a beautiful session with us. So farmers, I hope you have learned a lot. So now it's time for you to engage on the presentation that has been made. Any question from the floor? Okay, Matsidiso McDonald, Ashley, please come to the party. Matsidiso, the stage is yours.
Good morning, farmers. Good morning. Also, thank you for the presentation. Also, I just want to have a little bit question in terms. Let me say I'm around in Kurman area. I'm farming in Kurman, but in a communal land. Just a little bit question to ask in terms of from Ashley. Maybe you can help me on this one. Is it possible if I'm in a communal land, I can just, even though it's gonna be a little bit costly for me, to just supplement with a production legs throughout the year? because the problem with the communal land is that you don't have control over your field. And the other thing which I want to ask for his recommendation is whereby I'm in the communal land and we have a big open space of area of land whereby your animal can travel for a long distance and coming back for long distance for water. What lick maybe you can recommend maybe somebody must use in that regard? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for a nice question. Ashley, over to you.
All right, great. Thanks, Mashidiso. So you can supply a production lick throughout the year. The only issue with that is it is costly. So our production supplements are your most expensive supplements during the year. And if you can just kind of try and manage around what your season, because your season will be very similar to what I've just shown. I understand the challenges you're facing, but I just think from an economical point, it's going to be a bit difficult, or it's going to cost you a lot more money than it needs to cost you to provide a production supplement throughout the year. But it won't do your cows any damage. It will do them more good than not providing them with anything. So if you do want to follow that option, I would recommend Super 18 or Econolic that you can use throughout the year. And then depending on your grazing, your cows will also, the intake will differ on those supplements. So, if you have better grazing, your intake will be lower. And as soon as your grazing is a bit poorer, maybe in your winter months or on your dry grazing, then you'll see your intake of your supplements increase. But once again, like I also mentioned in the video, just do please keep to the intake levels that we have recommended. But I don't know if I've answered your question or if it's clear, and if there's something else I can add to that.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for the thumbs up.
All right. Clady, the stage is yours.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Mukhosi. I'm from in Free State around Hope House is near Lesotho. I just want to find out what product can I use to replace a phosphorus leak, because it looks like my cows, they don't eat it. So my challenge is during summer, I'm not supplementing because I think it's not palatable. Which product can you recommend for me? And then the last question, is it wrong if like my cows at some point they had access to a game block? What is the danger of cattle having access to a game block? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mohosi, for your question. Phosphate leaks are very unpalatable. So if your intakes aren't supposed to be high on them, so they should be eating about between 100 and 200 grams of that per day. But we have another product. Its name is Superforce, and the intake of it it's a bit more of a palatable product that you can use, and it also supplies enough phosphorus. So that's another option you can use in the summer. But for the time being, for now, on the dry grazing, we should be giving a protein lick, like Premix 450 is a good one, or you can, like I mentioned, you can use Econolic on the dry grazing. So those are your options. Then the last part of your question was on the game block. Yes. And if there's any risks for our cattle there. So no, there's no risks on game block for your cattle. It's a very safe product to use. If it's suitable for game, it won't cause your animals any harm. Because a lot of the game blocks also do not contain any urea. Our cattle can use urea, but it's a safe product, so there's no need to worry if your cattle have had access to a game block.
Okay, just to add on that, I'd just like to ask if, let's say, most of the farmers, they tend to feed this game block as a way to reduce ticks or to control ticks. How true is that?
So there isn't a research available. We add aloe powder to our game blocks, but there isn't enough research that supports the fact that it should remove all ticks. I do think you must still additionally follow a program that you can chat to your vets or to your health representatives in the area to manage your tick load. I do not think you can just make use of a supplement to control that, because the situation changes across the country. We know the challenges we have with ticks. So no, 100%.
Okay. Mokgotsi, are you answered?
Yes, I'm answered. Thank you so much.
All right, great. And then our next question will come from Jabe, then Silo, then Ntate Piti. So Ntate or Jabe, this is your place.
Thank you very much, Khomotso. I'm Jabe. I'm from the Eastern Cape. I farm in the coastal belt. It's a Sauerfeld. The cattle right now are pregnant. They will be calving in September, October. What can you recommend in a Sauerfeld for September, October calving? Thank you very much.
All right, great question. Thanks, Joby. So basically, if they're going to be calving September, October, you need to start giving a production lick in August. But until August, you can just give them a protein supplement or a protein lick. So that would be either a premix 450, or it would be, if it could be a econo lick. But what I also need to mention here is, if your cattle haven't received the supplement, then you shouldn't start with a premix 450. Rather, just give them salt for a week or two, so that they get over their salt hunger, because we don't want any problems. And then you slowly start giving them premix 450. So you can start maybe with where I said the recommendation is 400 grams. You can start day one, you can give them 200 grams, not more than that. Make sure there's enough space for all of your cows, because we do not want a hungry cow going and eating too much of that lick at one point. So your animals should be on winter licks or a protein lick now at the moment. And it's because the grazing doesn't have enough protein in, and especially on your Sauerfeld. Our Sauerfeld does tend to have a lower quality than Sweetfeld, and by that I mean there is less protein in our Sauerfeld.
No.
Thank you. I'm covered.
All right, thank you. Ntate or Masilo.
Good morning, Khomotso and Ashley. Good morning, farmers. Ashley, I think we met at Nampu this year. I was part of the Sparta delegate. I farm in a communal land here in Marquardt. Jabe took part of my question. I wanted to ask different league recommendations for different types of fowl, like the sour and the sweet fowl. And the second question is, if you were feeding leek, because we know leek is very costly. So if you maybe feed it like 3 times a week and you skip a day, do you lose efficacy, or it's something that you would recommend if you can't afford to feed it daily? And the third part of the question is your prices, because I heard that the prices for commodities is going to go up next week. So by what percentage of is it going to go up with? Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Silo. Very relevant questions you've asked. So yes, just to come back to just the points I want to make, on our Sweetfeld. So let's say more the western parts of South Africa, and maybe also a bit more up north. So Limpopo side, sometimes we have a bit more Sweetfeld there, so our protein requirements of the cattle are a bit less there, but they still do need protein supplements. But on our Sauerfeld, so if I can use the example with premix 450, I said they're 400 to 500 grams. So cattle on the Sauerfeld will eat more towards the 400, Sweetfeld will eat more towards 400 grams. And on the Sauerfeld, they'll eat more to 500 grams, just because their protein requirement is more. On the prices, we are, the market is telling us there's going to be a bit of a urea price increase. So, and urea is our main protein component in our winter lick. So there is a possibility that the prices of those licks are going to go up in the near future. So if you can plan and manage around that, it would be great. Because the stock in the co-ops now aren't affected by those prices currently. Then your other question that you asked is if you feed every second or third day, would it be fine? It would be fine. It would be acceptable. It would be better than nothing. But then I would suggest you use a safer lick, like something like an econo lick that's got a lower protein content, just to make sure that we do not have over hungry cattle consuming too much lick at one point. So if you cannot feed them on a daily basis, then rather do opt for something that's got a lower protein content, and just to make it safer for your animals. But yes, there's no problem. So if you really need to, we always say the most important part where you must give supplements the whole time is in the production phase, what we've chatted about today. And then if you can, at the end of the winter, where your grass is really, really poor, or during the winter when your grass is the poorest, there you need to focus your supplementation. If you skip more in the summer, that's fine. Because you're not going to lose as much as you'll maybe lose in the winter and late winter during production phases. I hope that answers your question, Selo.
Thank you, it does. Just one last question regarding molasses availability. I'm sure you know that we're struggling a bit to get molasses. Is the situation going to improve going forward, or?
All right, also a good question. So molasses is a very seasonally based product, because our crushing seasons are only a certain part of the year. We do have enough supply, but we do have some constraints during some times of the year when our mills aren't crushing. So for now, we'll be fine, but sometimes we do see a decrease in supply when the mills aren't crushing. And that's, across all the operations that do have molasses products. So we do have an off season.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Cool. Pleasure.
Yeah, on mute, Khomotso.
Sorry. Ntate Semenya. Okay, seems like you're struggling to hear you, Ntate Semenya, but I can see your mic is on. All right, we'll just skip you for now. We'll come back to you. Let's give Ntate Voermol a chance.
Thank you, Khomotso, and thank you, Ashley, for the presentation. I just want to ask one question on the production leak. Is it true that the production leak contributes to the higher growth of a fetus if you feed it while it's highly pregnant, which contributes to dystocia and stuff like that?
All right, very good question. Thanks, Boho. So a production leak has an energy component, like I mentioned also in the presentation. Now, energy is what can cause the fetus to grow. But if we keep to the intake that that's recommended, so for the production leaks are usually between 1 kilogram and 1.5 kilograms, you won't have problems. Where we do see you have issues with dystocia is if your cattle go to your maize fields and they go there before they calve. There is a lot of energy. They eat a lot of maize when they're in the maize fields, and those calves grow exponentially. So that's where we do see issues with dystocia and calving problems. Another area is if a cow was too young when she became pregnant and she didn't grow out enough. then you can also sit with dystocia problems. But yes, a very valid point you've made there. Thanks to Boho. But that the greatest concern is if they have, can I say, unlimited access to maize, then we usually see that those calves grow too much. But if you just feed a production lick and you keep to the intakes, you won't have any issues.
Okay, and Tebogo, are you answered?
No, I'm answered.
No,
I just wanted a question on that because on the energy intake aspect of it.
Okay.
100% very relevant. Great, thanks for that
Right.
question.
No, thank you. Now we can go to, let's try Ntate Pitsi Siminye, if you're able to come through. Okay, seems like you're still struggling. Ntate Tsiamo, the stage is yours.
Hello everybody. I'm Tiama Legafolo, staying in Potchefstroom. That's where I'm farming. My question is, I wanted to ask, in this season when fields are going to burn and we're going to suffer as farmers for our cows, which recommended leaks or feed would you recommend for this upcoming fires that we're gonna deal with? Like me, half of my farm it's almost burned down. So, what can you recommend for me so I can keep my cows in place?
So that's very unfortunate. I'm so sorry for the loss you've had on your farm and fields, because if it is a bit of a challenge if you do start the winter with less grazing than what you plan for. So we do not have complete feeds. A complete feed is really expensive. So my suggestion for you would be to just, try and get hay bales or any type of roughage source, because nothing can, replace roughage for our cattle. They still need access to enough roughage at all times. So your best option would be to have hay bales or roughage bales, and just make sure they never run out. So you give them ad lib to your cattle, and then just the maintenance supplement just to keep them going. And so that would be my best suggestion, because there isn't, your other alternative would be to feed a complete feed or mix a complete feed, and that is really expensive. And especially if you're sitting in a situation that you are unfortunately in, you do not necessarily always have the finances to go and supply a complete feed for animals for 4 or 5 months, before the rains come again. I hope I've answered your question, Tiamo. Great.
Right. Okay. Seems like that was our last question. I'm not sure about Ntate Siminye because his hand is still on. Are you able to go through, Ntate Siminye? Okay. Seems like you're still struggling to come through. Is there any other question, farmers? Okay, on the chat box, one says in around Kuruman, there is no super force. Ashley?
Okay, so great. Yeah. So if you can't get a hold of Superforce, I've showed you Super 18 and Econolic as well. There's enough phosphorus in those supplements as well. So a lot of the products do have a phosphorus component as well. So you can always just check on the label. For our animals, we want them to get in 6 grams of phosphorus per animal per day. If I remember correctly, I think Econolic is sitting on 8 grams per kilogram. So if they do eat a component of Econolic in the summer, then they'll also they'll get phosphorus in from there. And Super 18 is a 6 gram per kilogram, I think, if I remember correctly. So if they do eat the required amount, like what we've also prescribed on the app, they get enough phosphorus in, so it's not necessary to supply a phosphorus supplement on the side. So there are other products that contain phosphorus if you are struggling with intake on a 6P. On a phosphate block, so it depends on what you can get a hold of. All right, so the question we have here is, what do you feed cows that have just calved? Thanks, Pitsy. So that would be a production lick that we've just chatted about. So Econo lick you can feed, or Voermol production lick. Those are two of our production licks. And then there are also options if you would like to mix your own production licks. And then the second question that Pitsy has asked us here is on home mixing. How do you go about mixing the feed? Okay, so and you've mentioned a few roughage sources there. So what my suggestion is always is a lick you feed separately to your roughage sources. Always, you don't mix the two. Because sometimes our animals, like you've mentioned, their lucerne is a very palatable roughage source. So your animals eat after the lucerne, and then we can run into problems. So we always keep the lick separate to our roughage sources, and it's just to prevent that we see any toxicity symptoms or that they overeat of the lick. Because the licks usually, or we put things in the licks to control intake and to minimize the intake, but you should also control your lick intake by keeping to the prescribed levels that we have given.
Okay.
I trust that
Awesome.
answers your question. But yeah, so don't mix licks and roughage. And if I can also just a point that I can make is always keep your lick troughs away from water. We do not want the animals congregating around the water. So your lick troughs must be away from your water sources.
Okay. Seems like based on the water source, there is a last question that says, what can I do if there is urea poisoning, and what are the signs related to urea poisoning?
Great question. So urea poisoning is a challenging one, but you can overcome urea poisoning if you do catch it fast enough. Just quickly looking if I can find my pictures, then I can show you what it looks like. And there is something you can do about urea poisoning. You can mix water and vinegar, which you would have at your home. You can mix those two together, and you'll be able to combat that. So I'm just going to share my screen, if that's fine.
Right.
All right, here we go. So urea or non-protein nitrogen poisoning. So this is what it would look like. We see foaming at the mouth. You also see trembling of your animals. So if you see nervous systems or nervous system symptoms, then it can be a sign. So here's the signs of the poisoning: is muscle tremors, especially of the face and ears. Abdominal pain, so you'll see them arching their backs. If an animal arches its back, it usually says it's got an abdominal pain. Frothy salivation, like what we see there, foaming at the mouth. Excessive urination, clenching or grinding of the teeth, incoordination and weakness, and then shortness of breath and gasping. So those are all signs of urea poisoning. And it usually happens very fast. So as soon as you see something like that happening, you must act fast. So how do we overcome it? Is vinegar is an effective remedy against NPN, which is urea poisoning. So you mix equal amounts of water and vinegar. Then you dose about a half a bottle per calf or sheep. And one bottle, I say, is 750 mils, or 2 to 4 bottles per head of cattle. So you just dose them with that, and it ought to come right. But I always say prevention is better than cure. So managing your licks properly. So making sure you don't feed too much of a certain lick. Like I also mentioned, if you haven't fed protein licks, here the last point is also here: before feeding a urea containing lick, feed an ordinary salt or phosphate lick for at least 7 days before you gradually start introducing a urea-containing lick. So, and we must also keep our lick troughs filled. And Celo mentioned sometimes that it's very difficult to do that. So my suggestion there would be to feed a lick that's got a lower protein content, say now like the Econo Lick or Super 1/8 that I've mentioned, instead of something like a Premix 450, because your risk is a bit higher with a product like a Premix 450 if they do overeat on it. We go.
Awesome. No, thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing
Great.
such a wonderful presentation. And then from my side, I would like to give this message to farmers that now it's winter. Please do not wait for your animals to start to lose severe condition. Go to condition 2 and 1. Start to supplement as early as possible, because that's the most sustainable and cost-effective way to keep your animals productive. So, and I believe that from today's session, we have learned a lot, and you'll apply, not just put theory, and then you'll apply what you have learned today in your own farming practice. So anything you'd like to say, Ashley, from your side?
From my side, nothing else. Thank you so much for attending the session. I trust it was of value to you. And I agree with you 100%. Before your animals do lose condition, rather start supplementing, because it's a lot, I want to say, cheaper to supplement than it is to put an animal on a complete feed.
Yes.
Perfect. But no, thank you so much, and good luck with all of your operations. We trust you will have a lot of success.
Thank you so much. And keep in mind, farmers, we are farming with nature, but what nature lacks, Voermol will supplement.